Topham joins us. So I will call to order the Nantucket Memorial Airport Commission meeting for June 14th, 2022, and I'll start with the remote meeting script. Good evening. My name is Arthur Gasparo, Nantucket Airport Commission Chairman. Welcome to the June 14th, 2022 Airport Commission meeting. This open meeting is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. As a preliminary matter, permit me to confirm all members and persons on the anticipated on the agenda and are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mr. Buscarin.
Here.
Ms. Planzer.
Here.
Ms. Topham.
Here.
And Mr. Marks.
Here.
And staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mr. Rafter.
Here.
I don't see Mr. Carberg on the list. Ms. Perales.
Here.
I believe that's it for staff. Anticipated speakers, I don't believe we have any for tonight. For this meeting, we're convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. The meeting will be aired at a later time on the Town of Nantucket YouTube channel. Please note this meeting is being recorded and all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that are provided to members of this body are available on town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. We're now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for the effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I'll introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, I'll go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to unmute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait till I yield the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. For items of public comment, if members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged by and speak through the chair. Members of the public wishing to participate in the meeting must use their full name for Zoom access. If full names are not used, people will not be allowed to participate in the discussion. The commission reserves the right to remove any member of the public from the meeting who doesn't use a full name or acts inappropriately. And finally, each vote taken at this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. And with that, we'll move on to the agenda. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns with the agenda as drafted?
No.
Hearing none, we'll consider that adopted by unanimous consent. We also have the minutes from the May 10th, 2022 meeting. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns on the draft minutes that were in your packet? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adopt the draft minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Topham, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. We have 3 warrants to ratify from May 11th, May 25th, and June 8th. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns on any of the warrants? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to ratify said warrants.
I'll make that motion.
And is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Planzer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. With that, we will open up the meeting for any public comment. Please feel free to raise your hand. I see that we do have a couple of members of the public. You can either speak up or raise the virtual hand and I will recognize you. Seeing none, we'll move on to pending leases and contracts set forth on Exhibit 1, included in the packet of information, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Rafter.
Thank you. The first two are contracts with McFarland Johnson. The first is a $45,000 contract for a 3-year period for on-call financial planning services. And the second is $18,000, another 3-year contract for on-call PFC administrative assistance and services. The next is a contract amendment with Levangia Electric for a credit of $52,087.28. It's a change order to the phase 2 security project that we're in the process of closing out. Then we have a contract amendment with Track Builders in the amount of $15,420.58. That's a change order to the fuel farm rehabilitation project to address some column repairs and hazardous material disposal. We also have a contract amendment with Jacobs Engineering for $6,379. That's for the field work associated with decommissioning of runway 1230. Next is a contract amendment with Lawrence Lynch to extend their contract for the taxiway Echo project. That's simply a time extension. We then have a contract for Nantucket Auto Supply in the amount of $40,000. It's not to exceed 3-year contract for our parts, for automotive parts. We have a reimbursable agreement with FAA for $148,202.46. That is for the reels and fiber for the taxiway golf improvement. Any nav aid that is owned by FAA that's in a project, we do the work first and then they reimburse us for it. So for the design. And I would like to ask the commission to consider authorizing the chair to sign the Intertech agreement also upon completion of the final contract to avoid it from going to unpaid bills. That is a contract amendment for $19,419.40. And it's for the fuel testing that was required as part of our commissioning of the fuel farm. And we just had to negotiate that price and just got the contract together. So rather than have it go to unpaid bills and not have them paid until next town meeting, I would appreciate if the commission would consider authorizing the chair to execute that once the contract is completed.
Thank you, Mr. Rafter.
For that, sir,
Go ahead, Ms. Topham.
do you need a motion for us to do that?
Yes, please.
I'll make that motion.
So your motion is to
Include that.
adopt the, to execute the pending leases and contracts and to authorize the chair to sign the Intertech USA contract amendment.
That is my motion. Thank you.
And is there a second?
Second.
Is there any questions or discussion on any of the contracts or lease agreements? Hearing none. How do you vote, Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you. And with that, we will move on to the capital approval process Homeworld Petition, Mr. Rafter.
Thank you. About 2 weeks ago, we heard from Senator Sears' office. They had a question on our Homeworld Petition. It was regarding the use of a phrase. We had intermittently used some language, and they wanted to know if if that was intentional or if we wanted to be consistent. So Noah, working with our council and town council, clarified that and got back to them, and they said they'll push it along and let us know where it stands. So at least there's still some movement and still some hope on that Homeworld Petition.
Thank you. Any questions from anyone on that item? Hearing none, we'll move on to the PFAS investigation update.
So Noah is away at a air service conference, and I'll be giving the PFAS report tonight. So far, there have been 527 samples taken from 78 individual wells, plus 1 sample from a homeowner who had previously not permitted access. Those results are in process and we're waiting those. On phase 2 status, all poets have been decommissioned. There is 1 outstanding item to remove the hazardous waste off the island. We're working on that. Phase 2 characterization spring sampling effort to support the site characterization has been completed, and we're awaiting the results. The next IRA report update is due in August, but we'll be providing the summary of the spring sampling results once we receive that data. On the administrative side, down gradient property status and potentially productive aquifer exclusion expansion filings late this summer and fall, we'll be putting in for that. And it's similar process to the IRA update. The water service project, which were the connections over on the Nobody Way Evergreen area. All homes are connected, all 8 homes. There's some punch list items being worked on. On the water main project, that also is substantially complete. All homes have been connected, curb stops installed, and working on punch list level items. Skyline Drive repaving, the design is, we were told last week the design was 90% complete with anticipation completion tomorrow. And hopefully they're going to be getting the town paving contractor that information by Friday. Once the work does start, they estimate it to be a 3-week project, including restoration. Taxiway Golf soil results, there's no exceedance of the S3 soil standard, so soils must remain on the airport but require no additional handling. So that's good news. On the public communication bottled water cessation, all affected residents have received cessation letters per policy. Water delivery has ceased or will cease by the end of the month, depending upon delivery of timing. I did receive one call today that we're looking into. The resident complained that they still need the water, so we're looking into that. And there's still a single resident who has continued to refuse access for sampling, and one more legal notice will be required to prior to ceasing delivery. One other item of note on the 1 and 7 Airport Road MCD application, the corner property, a letter was drafted and sent to the planning board per the direction of the commission from the May meeting. And my understanding, I believe the chair may have more information, but I believe the planning board postponed that last evening and put that off for another meeting. And that's the PFAS report.
Thank you, Mr. Rafter. Does anyone have any questions, comments on the report?
I have a question. It's, are they getting money to reimburse the water company when their bill that we voted for? Is that in place now?
Yes, the $1,000 credit is in place and has been. So we're paying the water company for that, their first $1,000.
Thank you.
Yes.
I would just point out that I think it's really positive news that the POET systems we've reached a milestone with the decommissioning of all of the POET systems. So good work and thank you. If there's nothing further on that, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is to ratify Mass DOT increased amendment to grant award AIP 72, reconstruct taxiway E, state portion of taxiway F, and aprons taxi lanes for $7,966.93. Mr. Rafter.
Yeah, this is for the work that was not eligible for FAA funding. It's where taxiway Foxtrot comes into taxiway Echo. That had to be replaced, as well as the pavement that we replaced over by Hangar 8, Gate 8, and T hangars. This the actual price came in a little higher, so the grant was amended to include that.
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns, or a motion related to the grant award? And we need to ratify it.
I'll make a motion to ratify.
Thank you. And is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. How do you vote, Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Thank you. Next, we have, we discussed previously the reduction in Cape Air flight schedule, and Staff's drafted a letter of support, which was in your packet, and I'll let Mr. Rafter go over that.
Thank you. Yes, the letter in your packet is a draft letter to Senator Warren requesting the opportunity to discuss the pilot shortage issue that is impacting our airport as well as all small airports throughout the country. It is anticipated, if approved by the commission, that this same letter would be sent to Senator Markey and Congressman Keating. Noah is currently at an air service conference, and he's reported back that the message basically across the board out there is that it's quite bleak for small communities due to the shortage of pilots and compounded by increasing costs. So we would ask your permission to send this to our legislative group and discuss what potential solutions may be available. You've probably seen in the news where there have been requests for reduction of the 1,500-hour training rule. There are airlines that are paying incentive bonuses and quite a bit of money. So it's critical. And it was essentially, there was an issue before COVID. Then during COVID, pilots retired and there weren't many in the pipeline because the training stopped because of COVID. So we'd like to discuss this further with our legislative members and see if there's some solutions that we can come up with.
Was there any questions or discussion on the draft letter?
No, I thought it was very good, and I'm hoping that we do get some resolution.
Mr. Buscarin?
Well, of course, none of these people are going to do anything for us at all. The FAA has made a judgment with regard to pilot qualifications, and the last thing Warren wants to do, or anybody wants to do, is to stick their nose into the FAA's business about which they know very little. I think the 1,500-hour rule is ridiculous. That was made after a 2009 crash at Buffalo, where the co-pilot was overtired and sleepy. Nevertheless, it doesn't do any harm to send the letter. I think it might be better directed to the head of the FAA or somebody of that sort that actually would change the rule or recommend to change those rules. But no harm in sending it.
If I may, Mr. Chair, also, if there's a little bit of a silver lining, we got the word that Cape Air cut back the Hyannis service, but Southern has jumped into the market. And the last page in your packet is actually the Southern schedule. And I believe it's going to be at least 4 flights a day to Hyannis. So it's good news for us. But again, I think we have some serious challenges on the horizon.
So is there consent to send the letter? I don't know that it requires a vote unless there's any dissent. Hearing none, I think by unanimous consent, we can send the letter as drafted. And moving on, we have to discuss in-person, hybrid, and remote meetings. The Governor's Acts allow that we can, right now, as I understand it, we have until July 15th to continue to meet via Zoom. Our next meeting is scheduled for the 12th. After that, it looks like we're going to be in that trailer by the fire station. So I believe the recommendation would be to have at least one more meeting using this format. But that's certainly open to discussion from the commission. I think that if we were to ask to use the trailer, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that it would probably be available to us, but it might be better to wait it out a little bit and let some other people use it first.
If I may, Mr. Chair, too, Katie, myself, and NCTV and the town's IT department will be touring the trailer to identify its capabilities. And basically, I think what you'll be faced with if they don't extend the Zoom rule, if you will, a decision as to whether or not we go all in public or a hybrid. And that's why we want to go see what the technical capabilities of the facility are, and we'll report back to you.
Thank you. Is there agreement that we continue with one more Zoom meeting for the next, for the July 12th scheduled meeting, and then we And we talk about it then, figure out maybe where we go.
Yes.
Okay.
Agreed.
Sounds like that's what we'll do. And moving on then, if there's no further discussion on the meetings, to the Nantucket Flying Association special permit application and fee waiver request. This is associated with the aviation camp they do every year. Mr. Rafter?
That's correct. This is an annual event. It's a very good program. And we typically, or the commission typically approves waiving the landing fee for the aircraft that come in for the pilots. They take them in an airplane and actually fly them either over to the vineyard or whatever and allow them to sit in the cockpit and fly. So I think it's a great thing. We're working with them on all the other aspects where they're going to be doing some tours through the hangars and terminals and so on. Frank Hanlon, who's I believe the president of the NFA right now, is a badged, has a CITA badge. He's a firefighter for the town. So they've come a long way. They're very well organized, and I would encourage approving the fee request waiver.
Thank you, Mr. Rafter. Are there any questions, comments, concerns with the request for the proposed event or the fee waiver?
No.
Is there a motion to approve the special permit application and fee waiver request?
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Is there a
second.
That must have been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Topham, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Thank you. And Mr. Rafter, the general fund repayment proposal and discussion of in-kind service.
Yes, in your packet is the spreadsheet that shows the general fund repayment. It indicates our normal payment for the year, as well as an extra 500,000 as previously discussed. But this has to be voted on each year to actually transfer it and have the town take the money out of our account, basically. So we need approval from the commission for this.
Is there any questions on the repayment proposal? Is there a motion to approve the general fund repayment proposal per as laid out on the chart in the packet?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded. Ms. Planzer, how do you vote? Ms. Planzer, are you and I think you're muted. Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Planzer. Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. And with that, we'll turn it over to Mr. Rafter for the manager's report.
Continuing on the finance vein, I just want to update the commission on financial snapshot through the end of May, and Jamie put together a ton of detail as usual. She's very thorough. But just to give you a quick snapshot, our revenues, not including the fuel revolver, at the end of May of this year, about 10.9 million versus 8.6 last year. The fuel revolver income only is 9.5 million versus 4 million last year. The expenses, 6 million versus 4.2 last year. Fuel expenses were 4.6 versus 2.8 last year. So our net earnings at the end of May is projected about, or was 9.7 million versus 5.5 over last year. Once we apply the PFCs and we take out the fuel revolver that doesn't go to the bottom line or the retained earnings, the surplus is about 5.1 million versus 4.7 over last year. So things are going pretty well. We're looking forward to a good year again this year. And our fuel sales, very interestingly enough, the sales in number of gallons are up 33% over this time last year. So even with the price increases and things, we're seeing an increase significantly in terms of number of gallons that we're pumping. Some of that, and you'll see in in our traffic statistics, was because of some of the year-round service that we have, and a lot of it though is still on the corporate side. So financially, things are still in pretty good shape. Projects, taxiway Echoes fully operational. We're working through some punch list items. The contractor has indicated they'll be seeking an increase due to the cost escalation associated with changing the phases of work that we had to do because of PFAS. We're awaiting further detail on that. FAA, I don't believe will approve it, but we're going to see what they're going to be looking at. Security phase 2, as I mentioned, we're closing that out. The fuel farm rehabilitation project is complete. It's operational. The temporary tanks are due out of here by Thursday. Runway 1230 decommissioning is complete. Crew quarters housing project will be circulating draft RFQ for the architect very soon. The Hagedorn aviation hangar construction's well underway. Structural steel has been erected and a majority of the skin has been installed. The terminal optimization project, I just received in the preliminary draft of concept approaches and will be reviewing that and circulating it. HVAC controls project is expected to begin after the 4th of July weekend and be complete by the end of September. Taxiway Golf, as you recall, we received 2 bids. They're under review, and we're also awaiting a grant, but we're hoping that the environmental work will begin this fall. Our master plan update, we have to revise the scope again at the request of the FAA, and that has an impact on our non-standard geometry study as well. So they're revising that scope in conjunction with it. RFPs and bids, we're still working on finalizing the IFB for the preventative maintenance schedule for our security system. CHA contract is being developed for the terminal space optimization, both terminal space and the housing. The OPM is kind of in a holding pattern until we can a little more clearly define what the project is, so that they can see what their level of effort is going to be needed. The RFP for IT services, we had a deadline on May 12th. We received 2 proposals. They had to be rejected. They didn't meet the minimum criteria. Was put back out again. Deadline was last Friday. We received 3 proposals and they're currently under review. The Sun Island Road RFP is being reviewed by town. And as you saw earlier, we had to do a quote process for the automobile supplies, and that was completed. On the operations side of the house, holiday sales for Memorial Day weekend, they were up 27% over last year, but that's due to an increase in the price of fuel. The gallons sold were down about 22%, but still higher than any year between 2015 and 2020. The committee interviewed 4 different folks for the operations superintendent position, and we've made an offer, and it has been accepted by Skylar Svedras, former Coast Guard member. So we're looking forward to her beginning shortly. All seasonal carriers have begun service, so we're up to full strength on the summer schedule. And as I mentioned earlier, Southern going to Hyannis. The stats are in your package, but I just wanted to look at a couple of items. The employments were up almost 30% over last April, and year to date, up 64,000 employments. Most of that has to do with the Southern going year round. They have done a very good job on building the Providence market and connecting through there and connecting with American Airlines. So that's very good for us. Our operations are up about 19% over last April, and year to date, almost 18%. So things are moving along. We did see a slight reduction in seasonal service, but we should be okay with that. And just a note on the personnel, we're still looking for a mechanic and any seasonal operation staff that we can get our hands on. And one other note is travel requests to attend the Northeast chapter of AAA, which is held in August 7th through 9th in Philadelphia. The information, I believe, is in a handout that was sent to you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Rafter. Maybe we'll go in reverse. Are there any concerns with Mr. Rafter's travel request to Philadelphia for the conference?
No.
Okay, hearing none, we'll consider that approved by unanimous consent. Is there, and I'm not sure it even needed to be approved. I believe Mr. Rafter said that was actually in his contract, but it's good to know that everyone's in agreement on that. Are there any questions, comments or concerns with any of the other items that Mr. Rafter reviewed? Hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Rafter. We'll move on to commissioners' comments. Are there any comments from any commissioners, either pending items or for future agenda items? Ms. Topham.
I went to the airport today and I saw by the FBO that the tent was moved, which I guess is trade winds, but there were like 3 yellow stanchions or roadblocks, and they seem to have taken up some parking spots. And I was wondering, I mean, don't we need those spaces when the private planes are coming in for them to be using? It just,
No, we intentionally moved the tent further down because of the number of passengers and bags that accumulate there. And that's why we've designated that area. They just need more space for pedestrians. We actually have an internal meeting coming up to discuss all of the parking, and we will be assigning and putting signs up for some of that specific parking. But it's more of the drop and go that occurs in that area. And the congregation of people and bags is so significant that it was becoming a hazard, and that's why we spread it out. We're going to try to look at some nicer looking barricades, if you will, maybe some planters or whatever. But that's why we had to do that. It was just overcrowded with people.
now, and years ago, we had a young man, I think his name was Brian King, and he was in charge of the whole airport, directing and organizing. Do we have somebody that could do that to have it a little bit better control?
Well, we have a gate guard there that controls it, and Tradewinds has a representative there, which ironically, their brother's one of our gate guards, and it's he's also the Tradewinds representative is a station manager for Cape Air. So we have gate guards there that oversee that entire operation, and that's under the FBO.
But I guess I'm concerned about people that are maybe be getting taxis or picked up, and there's not a lot of space for them to go. It makes more space, and you need more walking for the passengers or the people that are visiting. And I guess that was one of a concern that I thought. But if you're going to discuss it with a group, then you maybe we'll come up with some solution.
Yeah, we're going to look at that traffic flow.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Topman, Mr. Rafter. Anybody else have anything further? Hearing no other comments, we'll open it back up for a public comment again. So we do have a couple of members of the public with us. Please feel free to turn on your camera and raise your hand. Mr. Rosenbaum.
Yes, thank you for sort of inviting me. I don't know, is my camera on here? Oops.
Not. There we go.
I just wanted to comment that we'd be happy to join you in that letter if you wanted that is going off to Senator Warren. Either do it jointly or each of us individually. So let me know what you want to do in that regard. And other than that, it's sort of interesting to see that both airports are dealing with a lot of the same issues, particularly the PFAS related situations. So have a great summer.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for joining us, and certainly we can get you a copy of that letter, and you know, however you might want to do that. I mean, I don't know if the other commissioner or what would be simplest if it was just a matter of 2 letters that went in at the same time. You know, we were going to send them not just to Senator Warren, but to Mr. Markey. And
right.
I'm not a political expert, but sometimes it may be better to have more letters rather than one signed by a group.
Yeah.
I think that's,
Thank you, but certainly we'll get you a copy of our letter. Mr. Rafter, could you
Sure.
facilitate
absolutely.
that, please? Thank you. And thanks for joining us, and appreciate, the feedback, and please do, feel free to reach out to us anytime, because we certainly have shared interests off the South Shore here.
well, you're all invited to the Vineyard Airport Commission's meeting, which are scheduled this second Thursday of the month at 2 p.m. So please
you.
come and join the fun.
All right, we appreciate that. Thank you very much, Mr. Rosenbaum. Nice to meet you. Do we have any other public comment? Hearing none, and we don't have an executive session tonight, so we would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second,
Motion made and seconded. Ms. Planzer, how do you vote? Ms. Topham,
Aye.
Mr. Marks,
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin,
aye.
and Chair votes aye. Thank you all very much. We'll,
Good evening. Joy. Happy Father's Day to the fathers.
Thank you.
God bless.
bye.
Bye-bye.